Good evening, good evening, good evening. Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Friday night, 6:30, and you know what time it is. Here's the question of the week. Are you hosting, planning, organizing virtual events? Are you in Zoom meetings, team meetings, and any other kind of virtual conference every day? And are you seeing what software do I use? What process do I use? How do I work out what my background looks like? Well, tonight is for you. We get insight into what you can do to level up your skill and the results that you get when you're delivering these virtual events. Everybody, welcome to the Personal and Purposeful Productivity Show. I'm your host, Florence. And tonight is all about live anywhere, live anywhere, being a remote. And I'm muted. You're going to find out tonight that you are a remote producer. We all are. And I have the privilege of having a fabulous guest. He is a video producer and consultant. He brings over 20 years of experience in the direct marketing to his video and live streaming business. He's the founder and video executive for executive producer of Shala La Productions. I always want to miss that last la in there. And he's a co-host of Pop Goes to Stream, and he has his own online talk show, Video Talk. Robert is so much fun, but he is a wealth of knowledge, and he's willing to share it with you and with me, and I'm so excited to have him here tonight. We met a few weeks ago, a few months ago, on another live stream, and we found out we had some things in common in terms of how we thought. And so that's why I brought him today. I am so excited. Let's go ahead and get the man in himself. Welcome, Robert. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you here, sir.
Well, thanks, Florence, for having me on. After listening to the intro, I'm like, who the heck's she talking about? Like, wait, is she talking about me? Oh.
Yes, I'm talking about you. Of
I
course I'm talking about you. What do you mean am I talking about? Who is she talking about? Well,
thought maybe
gang,
my dad.
no. No. We're not. So, I'm thrilled to have you here. We had a little bit of time beforehand to get to know each other even a little bit better, so I'm excited. I'm going to give the crew a little instruction here cuz y'all know you get to ask questions tonight. So, but if you're going to ask questions, we want to serve you and we want to answer your questions. I'm going to prompt Robert to answer your questions because I don't know the answer to anything. But if you if you have a question, please remember to put Q colon in front of your question to help us find them so that they can get answered. So Robert, I
Mhm.
love to start with this because I gave a little snippet of an introduction, but no one can tell your story like you can tell your story. So I'm going to hop right in and ask you the very first question. That question is, who is Robert Lee and what is Shala La Productions all about? How'd you get started?
Well, actually, I have to admit that I forget the third law sometimes too, so I'm in good company when you do that. But no, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, like before I got into video, I was working in marketing in the past 20 years in direct marketing. The At the time I'd focused on direct mail, where couple of positions I was like a direct mail planner, so there's a lot of like logistics involved in terms of making sure the mailing is going out properly to the right audience, and to making sure that the information, all that, has gone out in a timely manner. I think right around ooh, 10 years ago. Gosh, I can't believe that time, how much time has passed. But about 10 years ago, I saw that there's starting to be like a groundswell of folks using videos to help better market themselves. And so I thought it made sense that as much as direct marketing is important, that there should be some emphasis, or at least to look into like into video work, and how video is being used for marketing. So at the time, from another lifetime, when I was working at medical manufacturer business. I was trying to like build up the resources and such so that I could make the jump from doing direct marketing to the video. Well, the company was going through a period of layoffs and people moving on. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall. So I started the business a little bit sooner than I wanted to, but I knew it was the right field to be, especially when it comes to making sure helping people getting their message out, and as well as making sure people have the knowledge base as to how to create the videos or what the work that goes into it. But that's how I got my feet wet and just starting off with the video production. A slight description, a slight step back that while I was doing that, I was doing some volunteer work for a local cable access, so it gave me a chance to cut my teeth in terms of just looking the work behind the scenes and just trying to see like how things could be done better in terms of like the planning process of making sure that people have what they need to create videos, um, and just people being prepared as to know what to do when the shoot came time for shoot. Um, cut if we move ahead about like 3 or 4 years ago, like prior to the pandemic, I think I think at that time people were starting to like focus on importance of video, but then I think people were kind of struggling with, you know, oftentimes I hear a lot of people concerned with budget in terms of making investments for a video. So, and I saw that live streaming would be like a perfect vehicle for folks that may not have the either the resources or the experience in terms of the work in front of video production, but allows them to be able to create a video, also like be themselves in terms of getting their message out there. Well, just right around the time when I was about to get ready to like test the gear out to be able to do a live stream on out in the field, the pandemic hits. I'm like, but what was neat about that is that it gave an opportunity to folks to be able to do live streaming from the comforts of the home, and so what evolved from that is just as Florence mentioned about doing remote video production. So like everyone who has their own YouTube channel or doing it for another colleague or business, uh, the skill sets that's involved in video production is applicable to in remote video production. It's just a matter of just knowing, the different resources, the personnel, involved to create it. But in terms of the work that goes behind, which is important, the pre-production, the planning, everything that's critical. So that way you can manage the expectations as well as knowing like types of videos that you want to create, and just being able to work out your own workflow and everything like that. Um, that that's important. So cut to today. Here we are now talking about that. So
Yep.
um, hope I wasn't too long-winded there.
Nope. 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 But it was a great introduction because we, those of us who don't come from the video world and we don't realize that being on camera in any way requires some pre-planning and production work. That's really key. It's something that you bring a wealth of knowledge about because you started, right? You started and you just kept going. And so we've got some folks in the house with us. So let's go ahead and say hello to some folks who are in the building this evening. And y'all know I'm going to try to do this without tearing it up. We have Mr. Walter Strong. Yes, I do it every week. We have Mr. Walter Strong here with us. Good evening, sir. And so glad to have you as always. And then we have our other friend here. Tech Troublemaker is in the house, in the building with us this evening.
All right.
Fantastic show Tuesday night. We have our moderators here with us, and we do have some folks. We have our moderator here. Thank you, Joshua Uell, for always reminding us this is the live tribe. So there are folks who are not necessarily communicating in chat with us. You may be feeding children, taking care of parents, driving home, watching one of my favorite people in the world at a baseball practice. So, but you're listening. Welcome to the Friday Live Tribe. And if you're on the replay crew, you're in the replay crew, welcome. You're a part of the community, and we're glad to have you here. Again, we have a fabulous guest with us tonight, and I'm so excited to have him. Don't be looking around like, well, you don't know who I'm talking about. And so then we have another moderator in the building with us tonight, the best friend in the world that anybody could have. Frank Jackson. Thank you, Frank, for reminding everybody to put a Q colon in front of your questions. So start thinking about your questions, get them in now, because we want to make sure that Robert has an opportunity to answer them. And welcome, Edward. I am excited to have you here. I haven't seen you in the stream before, but welcome, welcome, welcome. And think, I think this may be someone you know, Robert.
Hey, Josh.
Joshua, is this your father?
That's my brother.
It's your
Hold
brother.
on.
Well, welcome,
Yeah.
Joshua. We have two Joshuas tonight. Welcome to the stream, Joshua. So glad to have you here, and I love that picture. Fred Sanford is one of my favorite characters ever. So I may be saying Elizabeth tonight because I may be saying it. We're going to get right into some content. I'm going to ask you the second question, and that is,
Okay.
we talked, I kind of introduced it, but I could be very wrong.
Yeah.
What are categories or types of events that where remote production really could be relevant to someone? Maybe they're a professional or a business leader or a volunteer executive or a nonprofit executive. That's my audience, my community primarily are professionals, business leaders, and nonprofit executives. What are some types of events that maybe they're not thinking about where remote production would be relevant for them, that they could gain some knowledge and build skill around?
It's a great question. The first thing that jumps out is what they call like a hybrid production, and that's the ability of having a production where you're filming a live stream where the event's happening live and you have people in attendance, as well as people like logging in like from Zoom or whatever software they're using to be able to watch the program virtually. So when you have two elements where you have people watching it online and then people actually there, you definitely would want to have like a remote production crew that'd be able to not only film the event while you're there, but also to be able to send the stream so that way people like you could be doing this like we're doing a stream here. I'm in Massachusetts, and you're in is Maryland?
I'm
Is
in
that right? Or
Maryland.
okay, yeah. So you can imagine that if if we had fans or whoever watching from our respective place, but people out in the West Coast or the Midwest, they want to like stream in. You definitely want to be able to have things set up so that they be able to see the stream live, whether it's on a YouTube or if it's self-contained. Some people do it from Zoom or Vimeo or what have you. Um, so that you'd want to be able to make sure that you have the resources and the personnel to be able to take the stream so that people that are watching it virtually can do so. So that would be one example. Another, I know live event itself is like a base general term, but it's like anytime if especially like you have like people like we did one last year of or was it 2 years ago? Yeah, the time's kind of 2 years ago, we did a live stream of a horse show, and that was at the height of COVID, or at least it was like tapering down, but sort of rampant. And so that would be an example where you had people there that actually were able to see the event, but because there was a significant amount of people that couldn't be there, uh, they were able to at least watch it virtually, like on YouTube or the Facebook live. And that was the case where we definitely needed to stream that at the site, but I would also take that feed and kick it out virtually so that people can be able to stream that. Um, so it's a different version of a hybrid, but it's just a different type of event where it's like an actual sporting event, or it could be like a conference or convention. Um, Anything that involves an element where you need people to be able to watch it remotely when they can't be there. That's what jumps out as to the example for what where that where people would
Okay.
have interest.
So the call for questions has been recognized, and we've got our first question. It
Okay.
is. What is a typical budget for remote production, and can it be done? So, two-parter. Can it be done
Okay.
well with free or open source software? What is a typical budget for remote production? Does such a thing exist as a typical budget for remote production?
Uh, well, it's a good question. I don't know if I would say typical. I think it's just a matter of just being able to. I think I don't want to sound evasive when I answer this, just because it's all over the place with budget. Because some people may have a budget to spend 1,500, 2,500, or maybe they only have like a few bucks. I think what really is key is just being able to have that conversation either with a client or a colleague that's doing the live stream, and just ask them like what's their goal, like what are they trying to do, are they producing an event where you need people to film at the event? Is it more like a talking head where it's like more like a webinar where you have one individual speaking and people are like all over the place and you want to be able to stream it?
Mm-hmm.
So I think once you identify like what type of subject or what type of project that is being live streamed, that helps better inform as to try to figure out like what the budget is. Actually had a conversation with a colleague I think last month, and had this very question. And after talking with the person, you know, I know he was interested in doing like a remote production. You have like different camera feeds and all that stuff. But for what he was trying to do, it didn't make sense because it just really more matches like what like a Zoom webinar is, and so he didn't really need to make that expenditure. So it was just a matter of just easily identify like just a rough game plan as to what he needs to do. And since it didn't make sense for him to try to like come up with a budget to spend something like that, I merely just gave him some basic information as to what he needs to do to be able to live stream it on, because it was something that it was manageable for one person. So for something like that, you know, that would be an example where it's just maybe, or maybe the cost of a console. And then there's others where it could be 5,000, you know, where you have like you need like multiple shots where the actual live event, or you need to get other footage from other sites. So to try to make this a short, a short explanation, what really boils down to is just having that conversation just to understand what the scope of the project is, so that way you can kind of get a ballpark estimate as to what the cost may be run into. And then the other important thing is just knowing like what the client budget is, because like even though the work itself may be like 5 or 10,000, if they only have like $1,000, then you know it's a matter of just making that modification. Say, okay, what can we do to offer him the same level of work that will get the job done for one that he or she or they could afford. Um, and can it be done with free open software? Again, I guess it really depends on the amount of the scope that they could describe. If there's like a lot of graphics that's involved, so let's say if they want to like add a lot of visuals, like charts or animation stuff like that, you know, you may need a high end software. I know, like for folks using PC, folks, I use vMix, and I know folks that are on the Mac environment, they folks use Ecamm, and I know other people that would use like OBS. And so I think the key is just identifying the type of animation graphics involved, as well as your computer setup to be able to handle that. And that kind of helped inform me as to whether like what investment is proper for your type of production. I hope that answers your question, Ed. So
You know, you raised a question in my mind when you said it. You were working with someone who ultimately what they needed to do was do a Zoom meeting, and so we know that particularly Zoom is heavily used more than I hear about Zoom meetings about more than just about anything, right?
Mhm.
And but I've also seen where people just show up and they're not really aware of what they can do to have a, a more polished event, even when they're in a Zoom meeting.
Hmm.
Are there some simple things that don't take a whole lot of time that someone could do if they're maybe it's for work or church or a volunteer meeting or something, and you're going to be in Zoom, right? And you're going to show up, but you want to show up polished, and or you're bringing people in and you want the people to have who are coming in as your guest to have a really good experience.
Hmm.
Are there things that the person can do in terms of, you call it pre-production, maybe pre-production or planning, that the host could do, or the person who's, if you will, producing this meeting in Zoom can do
Yeah.
to help?
Another good question. Again, not to sound like a broken record, it's all about having that conversation just to understand the scope of it, like whether what is the outcome that they're looking to have from these videos. Because I know depending on what they plan to use the video for, uh, if it's like a thought piece or marketing piece or what have you, um, sometimes like it's like if you can't do the type of look that you want live, you can always like after like the show's done to do some edits with it. And so there could be like let's say it's a 2 hour talk, and boy that's a long talk. There may be like in like half hour in, there's like a good nugget information there that you think that is really important that people should know. But it's something that you want to make sure it's pretty polished. Where if you were able to take that chunk of that video and to edit that and something that's something that's be a better format, like if you're gonna put it on LinkedIn, maybe you might want to be able to get it into that square format or what have you, or if you put it on like an Instagram or like YouTube shorts, be able to just stretch it out into the vertical format and to be able to craft it the way you want it. um that would be one example of like to be able to give it the look that you want, because you're now using the advantage of time to your advantage to make sure to have that video there. So it just really depends on identifying at the start before you even film to know like what are you trying to do, what's important as to what's out there. Sometimes I have some folks that um they're perfectly fine just to have as is, but be able to throw just basic graphics there. So like right now on your show we got like lower thirds here, and that maybe just be enough to be able to identify who the people are involved to talk at. And just like some of the other videos you have like with James and others, I mean you have like those nice chapter descriptions in YouTube, so that way people can know like where to fast forward to the video like that. So little things like that to make the uh, user friendly in terms of being able to access the information they want, or maybe other examples that may seem small, but it makes a big difference as to how people can view your program. So it's just a matter of making sure you just identify from the start as like what your goals are and the purpose are in terms of making sure the point you're making in the video that is get out there very clearly. And the other component is just amount of time you have to be able to work with. So if you do have time to be able to have like something done on the post end after the program has been streamed like that, to use that to your advantage. Or if it's something where you're under a time crunch, just being able to like introduce like graphics like the lower thirds, like something like this. Oop, hang on. Identifying the speaker here, or just like having like slides at key moments when the person's talking, so that people know what the point you're trying to drive home that require visual, and having like nice chapters in your YouTube channel, or just having great description as to where they can find it. That could be enough. So it's just having that conversation is the important thing.
So you gave some really great tips, and all of it has to do in this specific area that we're talking about, but it
Hmm.
has to do with being productive, being having your descriptions wherever it is. Maybe it's in an email, maybe it's in a meeting invite, maybe it's in a YouTube chapter, maybe it's wherever you need it to be, maybe it's on a flyer. But being able to pull that information together and have it, know what you want, know what your goals are, and then talk with, whether it's your client, your team, your boss, whoever it is, talk with them and understand what the goals are up front. So that's great, great insight. Thank you for sharing it with us, with this audience, and with those who are watching in the replay. I did put up earlier, I'm going to put it back because I thought this was funny. Um, Text says, I prefer Zoom to Teams and I greatly dislike WebEx. Okay. That's
I
a
almost thought
little,
I said
I'm
WebMD.
like, okay. I'm not sure how to, okay. So Robert, you
Yes.
shared that, but I also know that you are a giver. And one of the things that I learned recently is you've written an ebook. Tell us a little bit about what this ebook, what was your purpose? Because again, you're giving. What was the purpose of the ebook, and what are you trying to help people with who go get that ebook and study it?
So the ebook was the video production budget guideline. The first version was actually one for you know consumers and people in the video production to help them figure out like how to budget their investment if they need a video created, but they don't really know like what the costs are for video production. So and I get asked a lot about this from both sides. So when I initially put it together, it was just letting people know like what the going market rate is, if you're hiring a videographer or a video editor to create videos, and I I try to at least reference it as to the types of shoots, just so that they know, like, under these circumstances, these are types of figures that you would see, whether it's you're dealing with a professional, or if you're dealing with a editor or someone that can do both, or maybe dealing video, like a video production service. So but then I think because the information was more weighted heavily for consumers that not sure what to do. That's when I came up with the updated version for the consumer guideline to focus more for them, because a lot of times, and I know like other colleagues in the video production business um, have challenges just trying to figure out like what the client's budget is, just because there's that dance they do as to like do I really want to tell them how much I want to spend? I don't want to get gypped. Blah. So I'm just trying to like kind of eliminate the uncertainty, just like, hey, just so you know, here's some of the going rates that if you're dealing with the individual stuff, so that way they feel a little bit more comfortable talking about numbers when they approach a professional as like they want to invest in videos. So that way they don't feel overwhelmed or underprepared for it. So that's led me to create that Simply book, and it's about, I think, about 10 pages, so it should be a quick read, just as a good reference. I mean, the bottom line is the important that they should know is that it's important thing to help them feel confident when they go into a talk, when they talk about budgeting, so that if someone's asked you like, well, what's your budget and stuff like that, you can't say like, "Oh, I don't know," because like you have the book right there, so it gives you. So now it's just a matter of just like giving them a range, like, okay, well, I know like it would cost XYZ to hire one videographer. My budget's probably like around 2 or 3 thousand. What can you do? So that way you have a starting point to work from, as to like be able to provide you the service that you want for the look that you're looking for at the budget that you can afford. So
So, Edward, when you asked a question about the going rate, I think that the budget guideline that Robert has written could be a fantastic resource for you. And I know one of the moderators dropped a link to where to get that into the chat. So that's a resource that's already available to you, and it $0, right? Go there, grab it,
yeah,
read it, and take advantage of it. And if you go to, I'm going to go now, because if you go to Robert's website, you can contact him. There's a contact us. You can email, you can call, you can find out more. You can guide us through your website, Robert. Because this is your website.
It's right. Wait,
Yeah,
I still
yeah,
get
I
the
know. I never. I yeah. See, I do it wrong too. It's over there. It's over
yeah
there. Yep.
yeah. It's right over there. It's so what I've done is like if you, when you sign up for the ebook, it allows you to be able to subscribe to our email newsletter, so that yeah, the added bonus of being able to receive the newsletter just in terms of like stuff that we talk about, whether it's any new offers or just like any updates. I know like last month we released a newsletter about that chat GPT that's generating a lot of interest, and so um, we have like a part two that's going out next Tuesday about it, where last month's we just more asking questions to ChatGPT as if I was having actually I was having a conversation with it as to what it is, what it does, gets thoughts, like of the ethics involved, where you've had like people reporting of misusing it as students, like using it for like do their term papers, stuff like that. And then the one that's coming out for this month is just more questions geared towards like the video production and in the industry as to like their thoughts about how it's about live streaming and stuff. Because I was kind of curious as to like what his thoughts. So that's the kind of like little nuggets, examples of what you can expect in the newsletters, which you can get when you sign up when you get the ebook.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I know, right? It's so it's the opposite of what you think. See, I'm still learning too. So, oh my goodness, oh my goodness, we're gonna come back to this, but I want to
Okay.
recognize a couple of folks who've joined us. Thank you so much, Miss Denise Jordan, Apron Diva. We're going to hear more about her later. And I put this up because in this whole idea of putting, uh, the budget can really be a thing, right? So Tech said it has to be challenging to price out a gig like that. And I think that resource that you have is a tremendous tool to help people because that's something that we all have to deal with, right? We all have to deal with the budget of whatever it is we're trying to produce, regardless of who it's for or how it came to be. So that's a great starting point. So now I'm going to
Yeah.
go on to something that I shared with you
Mhm.
that I learned even working with you and preparing for you to join tonight. But can you walk a little bit through what your workflow is or what you would advise us as a workflow, a good pre-production for planning, testing, executing an event, a remote production event, being in that spot? I know what we talked about, but I'm not going to spill the
Mhm.
beans. I'm going to let you share all that goodness.
Spill the beans. Like, wait a minute, it's dinner time already. Hey, hang on. I know, food on the mind. Go figure. All right. So I think, not to sound like a broken record, again, it's about having that conversation. So, uh, and the first thing is just to understand like what's the scope of the project, and then once you have that nailed down, then the fun begins in terms of game planning. So the first thing is that you start breaking down of just trying to figure out, okay, um, if they're doing a remote production, you just got to figure out the location first. What other moving parts that we're looking at? Is it just one site? Is it more than one? Are they looking to film, in one area, or is there more areas? Are there different segments? Like, are they gonna like have like a Q&A, or this? So 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 the first part of it is like a fact finding. Like, once you understand the scope, then you start kind of creating as to like, okay, you know, you start to like identifying like the structure of it as to how the show is going. Kind of like, doing like a TV show, or actually like what we're doing right now, so that you can kind of like start to formulate, as what we call here, the run of the show, of the program, so that way you have an idea as like how the remote show is being sequenced, so that when people watch it they know what to expect. um, and then it's just a matter that once you've identified that, then it's a matter of identifying the resources and the personnel that's involved. I think what's critical, the important at the very start of the beginning, is like when you're dealing with a client, or if you're dealing with a crew, just to know like with the client, knowing who the point person is, so that if there are some situations where you need approval from the client before making a decision, whether it may involve an investment or just maybe trying to figure out the logistics as to where to set things up, you want to be able to know who the person is you want to speak to be able to do that. On the flip side, when you're dealing with the crew, you have to identify like who the people involved. Like, okay, is it am I need like 3, 4 shooters, one shooter? Do I need a technical director? This may be more for a producer to handle. Do I need an assistant producer? Do I maybe need like a clone of me? Well, not physical, but you get the idea. Like someone that's another producer to be a producer on site. Maybe it may be just someone that you need someone there to be the go between the producer that's on site to someone that's in the office that's handling things remotely. So it's a lot of identifying the personnel and the scheduling the shoot and stuff like that. So that once you've got that boiled down, then it helps to be able to identify the timelines. Like so, like once you know like what the shoot, if you know the shoot's in a couple months, you can kind of time out as to like when you have um people that are involved in the crew, as like when you may need to schedule like a tech check or rehearsals and such, and being able to set up a timeline from identifying the assets you may need from the client, like graphics or logo, whatever approvals that needed before you put it together. Um, in the beginning, I should have mentioned that you also want to know like where it's going to. So if it's going to be on their Facebook page or YouTube page, you're like, are you able to have access to the page? Do you need someone from the client to be able to let you in, or can you get access to it directly? So these are the kind of things that's involved to be able to try to hammer out, so that you can kind of like be able to like put together a workflow as to when you need things done to be able to get things set up so that when the show goes, all you're concerned about is just on executing it. So there's a lot of moving parts. So to be able to identify that and to be able to create a schedule and know who's involved, and making sure, most importantly, that that the communication is clear and that people are in the loop or that know what's going on. It's I know it sounds like a lot juggle, but it's just the idea is like as long as you know what's involved, who's involved, where it's being streamed, why it's being done, then it's a matter of just being able to put the plan and then on executing it.
Okay,
I
well,
feel
we
like
got,
I need to give people
yeah.
a Tylenol or something.
Nope, we got another question here. The question is, I get asked to help folks build their live streaming setups. And this is back to your ebook, so now we've got folks wanting your ebook, but would this guide help me with pricing it out?
Not with live streaming. This was more towards being able to price out, like identifying hiring videographers or editors creating videos. So it wouldn't go into the details of like factoring pricing with live streaming, like the software itself or the other components needed. That might be a good idea to be able to look into, like creating a third edition for live streaming guidebook. But Roy, in terms of identifying, like, if you're looking to hire like videographers to be able to stream for you, at least like an idea like what the rate is if you're hiring a videographer in a scenario where they they would need to provide their gear. It gives you like a rough estimate as to what to go with. Um, as well as just the idea like if you're hiring editors. So if it's like a case where after you complete a stream you need to hire an editor, at least gives you an idea like the rates goes on into like what that costs. Although it's factoring as if the rates are like based like in Massachusetts, in terms of just the general framework, it's still within range. So should help you. So it'll answer some questions, but not a lot with the live streaming.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question.
Mhm.
What's the next big project that Shalala La Productions is taking on? What are you doing next? People always want to know what's happening behind the scenes.
Well, I know, like, since circumstances have made me focus more on offering work remotely, just like when life happens, that you have to pivot somewhat. So that I've been focusing on just in terms of helping others, in terms of like consulting with them, and just to help them start thinking about what work they need to do to that's involved with their shoot. So I've been promoting the a complimentary, like a 30-minute Zoom call for folks, so that way it helps them start thinking about like what they need to do with their projects, whether it's um, for their business or like for themselves. uh, and I know, like, I gotta remember, this is still March, right?
This is still March. Yes, it's still
Okay.
March.
So I know, like Florence had mentioned about a program that I have out called Video Talk. It's been a little bit dormant, just that I haven't had an opportunity to to work on that. But I know, like, the next couple of months we got a couple of program that's coming out there that I've been working behind the scenes, that uh, excited. Just it allows me to be a little bit creative in terms of how we presented live stream. So excited about that. So those are the two things that 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 jumped to mind for that. And I was pleasantly surprised that you saw the new intro that we had
I
put
was
out
about
for
to
the.
say you
Yeah.
put a beautiful new intro out. I really liked it.
Well,
Yeah. I
appreciate
watched
it.
it a few times
Oh,
trying to
cool.
figure out how did he do that.
I was gonna say smoke and mirrors, but since I have a little problem figuring out how to like light a match, I can't use that analogy. But you get the idea.
You know what? I'm surprised I
What?
haven't seen any fire coming out yet today.
Well, I could do that right now. Hang Couldn't resist.
Oh, you always do something fun and interesting. If you guys don't have any more questions, we're going to go. I asked you guys, I gave you warning. I gave you warning, so you should have them ready. What is your productivity win of the week? Want to know what they are. And the reason we want to know is because we are really good as professionals at beating ourselves up and not recognizing when we've done something well, when something has gone better sometimes than what we expected it to go, or we have an accomplishment. We have to learn to celebrate our wins. And so this is why it's important to me. This show is all about being productive, not about being busy. So I always ask, what's your productivity win of the week? And we have one already. I'm going to put it up here because, yes, you have been knocking. I'm going to make it real big because I want y'all, I'm still tearing stuff up, but it's okay. I'm going to learn. I am going to learn eventually. Uh, Miss Denise says she's been batching shorts. Yes, you have been.
Oh, nice.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that batching process can be a production. You're doing production, batching, and being productive. That's a lot of P's.
Mm.
Productive at the same time, so that you're getting your message out. Right, Robert. One of the things that you shared with me is the message that people, and you've said it tonight without explicitly saying, the being sure of what the message is you want to get out and getting
Yeah.
your message out. And if you want to share words about that or what your productivity win of the week is.
Oh no, I mean, I think the big win is just to be able to share the thoughts and importance that of just focusing on the messaging as to what it is that you're trying to get out with your videos in any form, whether it's live or produced. And so, because it's so easy that we get lost into the graphics and the setup and stuff like that, but the whole point is that video is a form of marketing where you're trying to like present your views, a product, a service. And so to be able to know like what you're going to say in front of the mic or in front of the camera, so that's important. So I think that sometimes people forget about as they get, into the production mindset and stuff, is that just knowing, what the heck you're trying to say, because um, just as you're investing yourself to get the message out there, other people are taking time, um, whether it's from their work or what have you, to come watch your video. So you got to make sure that when they come watch it, you don't call them up like, wait, what was I supposed to say? So you want to make sure you're coming out. I mean, you don't want to like overwhelm them and come out guns a blazing and like, ah! So you want to make sure that the what you have presented to them is that not only it's well thought out, but just one that the people can readily understand and know like what you're trying to do. Um, so uh that's it's so critically important. So to
Yep.
be able to share that with others, or at least just to let people know that it's something they should just remember, or at least to focus on. That's a big win right there.
So somebody's gonna get you. So we got a last question we're gonna take, and I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna last call for questions. What three mistakes that new remake producers should learn to avoid when starting out? What three mistakes that new remake producers should learn to avoid when starting out?
I'm not sure what's a remake
I
producer.
don't, I don't know. So let's just say new producers,
Okay,
maybe. And Mr. Strong, if you want to clarify that, please clarify the question because we want to make sure we answer it for you.
so if we go under Florence's interpretation of what is about what produces, I think the one thing you can never underestimate is just don't let time be an enemy. Good God, don't put things off the last minute, especially when you need time to be able to test the tech. Because, like, if you don't have an opportunity to test out the audio, or just know, like, if you have a connection and stuff like that, it could be a killer. So, and especially like if you have like a bit of a weather problem in here, you might want to be able to make sure if you have the heat on that the audio doesn't bleed through. So to be able to like to make the tech adjustments, having a tech test, that's the other thing to never underestimate is don't let time be your enemy. Make sure you invest the time to do a tech check. And the third thing is, again, about communication, just making sure that you can't assume people know what you're doing, like your guest and stuff. So you need to make sure that you have the opportunity to let them know like what the show is about, and also just make sure like what question they have, because last thing you want to do is assume that that they're all set to go. But if I had one colleague, I think they had like a camera, but they didn't really have much of lighting. And so it was a matter of just at least be able to spend the time to say like, okay, in terms of adjusting lighting, like what do you have to work with? Are you limited with only the lights above here? Do you have like a like an LED light or something you can put behind you to light yourself back? Things like that to know what they're working with, to take the time to talk with the guests or your colleagues, stuff like that, so you can address that before you go in there. So those are the three things to talk about: communication, um, make sure you have a tech check, and make sure don't let time be your enemy.
So it's interesting that you ask about light. You mentioned lighting because this question is. I know lighting is very important. How do you prep for a live show for lights? How do you prep? And Mr. Strong uh, clarified his question was what three mistakes that new remote producers should learn to avoid when starting out. So that was instead of remake, it was remote. So that was
Oh,
his
okay.
clarification. So
Yep.
if we can adjust that, and then the question about lighting.
Okay. So for remote, yeah, communication, the this yeah, communication. Don't let time be your enemy, and tech check. Those are the three things that it's been either underestimated, or just people just don't put the time in there. Don't make that mistake. Just trust me. Put the time in the just those three. You're gonna like save what's left up here when you do that. So, um, I can't stress that enough. Okay, so for the lighting, it's a tough question to ask, just because it just really depends on the type of live show. I mean, if this is if you're saying live show like what I'm doing now with Florence, then it's making sure that let me see if I have something here that can help. Uh, Pardon me for geeking out here, Florence. I'm just want to see if I'm able to activate something
Geek
so you can
out,
kind of
geek
see.
out. There are nerds in the room.
Okay, hang on. Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to like provide a visual of the lights I'm using here. if it's an example of how to light if you're doing a show like this. All right, sing on. Okay, pardon the mess, folks. All right, so I have like two LED lights here. One is right here that's kind of like hit me smack in the face, and one here the side, the light the side of me. So that allows me to be able to be well lit in front. Um, I know you can't see this, but I do have like a backup LED light so that if for whatever reason if if you couldn't see me here, if you couldn't see me behind me, at least I'd be able to put on a light behind me to light it up there. So that would be an example of what you can use um, for lights for when you doing a program like this. Now, if it's like a live event where you're filming like at a conference or such, you have to like scout ahead before you even start filming, like in hopefully like a few weeks or maybe a month in advance, so you can kind of plan out as to like how it's being lit, whether it's you dealing with a stage, or size of the room and stuff like that. So it's just being able to not make sure you use time to your advantage and just be able to scope out the room and just know like what's being what's being viewed there as to like to know like what how much light's involved. That's how I would look at it.
Okay, awesome. So we have had some great questions tonight. Robert, you have definitely given us some fantastic knowledge for us to take advantage of. And again, regardless of what our roles are, we don't have to be like Robert, be an executive producer with a production company that's working with really large brands. If you go check his website out, he got some really nice logos on there that he's working with. And so that's not who we have to be. We're all producing events and want to show up and want our guests and our speakers and even ourselves to be ready and give ourselves time. I'm taking away those three tips. Don't let time be your enemy, communication, and tech check. Those three, and definitely the communication, because I even tweaked working with you, preparing. So I'm going to do a little plug, and those who know me know this is going to sound real funny. But Robert has a Facebook group called Live Streaming Friends. He didn't talk about it. I'm going to get him. But it is, if you want to learn to have a safe place to learn and practice these skills, he will welcome you in, and the community is a safe place to just try things and go in and build your skill. So I'm gonna plug it for him because he invited me in, and I appreciate it. And I'm learning from others as well as him along the way.
And a shout out to John Kovaleski, because it was he and I that put the group together. I know that he's been tied up with other projects, so I've been a lot more active than he. I know like he's trying to like make the time to be able to chime in, but it's there for everyone. And again, to like Florence said, it's a safe place for folks to be able to do tech checks. It's a great community where people kind of geek out and just kind of like ask questions each other. And for me, it's a matter of just trying to keep up with everyone's uh sharp sense of humor to keep up with them, because sometimes they may be a little fast. I'm like, wait, what did he say? What did she say? Wait, what? So, but yeah, it's just a great opportunity to just be able to test things out and just see what works, what doesn't, and just learn from each other and just support each other. So
Okay, great. So Robert, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just let everyone know how they can connect with me, and then I will bring you back for you to have the last words. I like my
uh-oh.
guests to leave us with whatever wisdom or fun or insight that they'd like to. So I'll just put you in the green room for a minute, and I'm going to let folks know how to connect with me. That's okay with you?
Perfect. I'll be glad to wait and look forward to hear what you say.
Okay, everybody. So, of course, See, I made a mistake. But anyway, you can connect with me on florencedonald.live. There you can schedule a discovery call to talk about what your challenges are with your productivity system, whether it's tools or process or anything. I want to walk with you in the journey. Productivity is a journey, is not a destination. So florencedonald.live, as well as at that same space, there are some resources that I use even in doing my own production that you may want to take advantage of. So you can schedule some time with me here. And then, if you have not subscribed to the channel, if you're part of the replay crew and you have not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We have great guests on here. I am going to be sharing more tips on productivity and automation and how to get your system together. Like and share the information with others and ring that little bell thing so you know when we have new material coming out. And before I bring Robert back to close us out, I want to just let everybody know something fantastic. This is March Madness month, and it is an entire month of fabulous people. This one next week is going to be, actually it's going to be three of the gentlemen who you see on the screen, but they're going to be doing a roundtable discussion to wrap up some of the knowledge and insight and fabulousness and gold that they dropped in February to close out February. And they're going to do it in a roundtable format. So it'll be fantastic to hear what they have to say as they interact with each other and feed off of each other and level us all up in terms of our productivity. I am so excited to have these fabulous people come back and share with us next Friday. So, if you have a win of the week and you haven't shared it, please feel free to put it in the comments section down below and come back and see us next week. I'm going to bring this back to Robert and have him share whatever he would like to share with us as we prepare to close out tonight. Robert, welcome back.
Hey guys. Ah man, I actually it's probably the one thing I forgot to prepare for is what final thoughts because I hadn't thought about it. But I think the bottom line is that as weird as it sound, as much as advice folks give you in terms of like the videos you create, you know what to do, what should I mean, no one knows your situation better than yourself, and so the information I give you is just options for you to consider to help with your production. It may or may not work, or it may work a lot, and only you can decide that. But I think the important thing to walk away with is that whatever you work on, whether it's live video or video production, it's really important to take the time to kind of map things out as just identify like what it is that you're trying to do. You know what was the important outcome that you're looking for, and just the plan accordingly. And believe me, when you take the time to kind of sort things out, it makes it a lot more clearer and a lot less chaotic. So that when it comes time to produce, one time to go live, or when you create a video, you're that much prepared. So that's my only hope to walk away is just to always don't be afraid to ask questions, don't be afraid to plan ahead, and don't be afraid to know when you need to ask for help with your work, or and just don't feel like you need to take on everything. You know, if especially if it's like a video production with that much more moving parts, it's good to be able to have a good help with your production. So that's um, the only other thought I have is just hi ma, hi dad, hey Josh, hey Christine, and just thank Florence for the opportunity to be able to be on our show and to be able to kind of geek out and just talk with everyone. So thanks.